Conditions look awfully quiet going forward over the rest of this week. That's after 2 days of storms. After all that swept out, what's moving in tonight is extra cool air. We're down into the 50s tonight. Only time this week we'll see the weather that cool. The rest of the week looks just a little warmer, a little more humid. Not necessarily very stuffy weather, but it's not going to be quite as crisp as the weather we'll experience tonight. So you may want to open up the windows, let some of that fresh air in. Rockford down to 55. Areas outside of Rockford may drop into the low 50s. Because of the calm conditions, so get ready for a crisp start to the middle of the week. We'll warm up quickly though, as we typically do, with still some of this summer sunshine and heat sticking around. So 50s early on, 60s still after sunrise, and then 70s to 80s by the time we get to the end of the morning. So we do see that summer heat still causing our temperatures to rise pretty quickly around this time of year, even though the days are getting a little shorter. And that's all thanks to that lots of sunshine overhead. So as you look at the forecast, you can see that temperatures are back into the low 80s. A few more widespread areas in the 80s today. Many locations stayed below 80 degrees. We'll warm up a couple more degrees under that bright sunny sky. Humidity staying low for yet another day in a row. And things start to change up a little bit as the week goes along, so it's going to feel a little more like summer moving forward rather than some September-like conditions. You can see that we'll be in the middle 80s for Thursday and Friday with lots of sun, and then the lower 80s by Saturday. And this is a nice little preview of the weather we'll experience later this week, especially if you're hitting the road for the holiday weekend. If you're sticking closer to home, that trend towards some warmth as well as some muggy air continues. May even see some low chances for rain, but I think a lot of the area locally will stay dry this holiday weekend. So what we're not mentioning though is days in the 90s. You can see as we go back over the last decade, we've generally stayed kind of close to that 15-day average minus the last 2 years. 35 days in the 90s last year. That's why this summer feels a lot cooler, as we're just a touch above average for days in the 90s. And they're not in the forecast, so we'll continue to stay on the lower end of the last decade when it comes to days in the 90s, because we really don't see a ton of heat. Through Friday, middle 80s, the low 80s into the holiday weekend. Again, just some slight chances for rain. In your most accurate 10-day forecast next week, still looking at the upper 70s to low 80s, so September starting out warm, but not too warm, as we're not mentioning the 90s anytime soon.